Going to Scrap Fest, I'm going to the ice cream social too. I'm gonna switch out my shirt. This one is too hot. Oh, we got Mr. Kilpatrick here. We want him right. We want him right
I'll
there.
sit back here until I need to come up.
All right, folks, it is 1 p.m. This afternoon on July 12th. I call the Committee on Ways and Means to order. Good to see all of you. We've had a little bit of a break as agenda items were not quite so pressing, but here we have some pretty exciting stuff this week, and glad to have you all with us. Let the record reflect. Everyone's here for this Friday meeting. Sorry about that. For the minutes, I need a motion to approve the May 16th minutes.
I make a motion to approve May 16th minutes as is.
It's been moved by Councilmember Carter. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Anyone wishing to make public comment today?
Come on, introduce
Put them
yourself.
on the spot.
Oh, we talked about it. This is where you stand up and say your name.
We have some guests today.
I'm Peyton Flowers.
I'm just here
I'm just
to be engaged.
being gay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cassidy Carter.
Oh.
I'm here to be engaged.
Well, thank you for being here. Welcome to the committee.
Yes.
First item on agenda is a sole source purchase for the Parks and Recreation Department for Level Up Retail Services as the vendor for Stabenow Park Fitness Court installation. You do have a memo from the previous internal auditor stipulating that this does meet the necessary requirements for sole source. The Parks Director was not able to be here today, but did call me this week, walk me through it. This was the vendor they use for all their other equipment, and for liability and reasons they go with this vendor, and the equipment is already in. So I would ask a motion to place this on file.
I make a motion to place resolution sole source purchase for Parks and Rec Department on file.
Proper motion. Is there any discussion?
Just a brief, so from my understanding, based on the sole source, you're saying that because we use this particular vendor based on the Director of Parks and Recreation, just overall is kind of their system has to continue to use them for this.
Yeah, it's consistency of program, of material across the city.
Fantastic.
So they did the other 2 or 3 fitness parks. I don't know, I'm looking at you. The other 2 or 3 fitness installations
That's right.
that we have in other parks.
Yep, thank you so much.
No worries.
That's my only question.
Cool. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have Amber Paxton presenting a grant acceptance for the Financial Empowerment Center grant.
Yes, hello, everybody. I wanted to very quickly, if it's okay, give an update on FEC as well.
Absolutely.
The counselors were hired. One of them is the person who worked for us at the Cristo Ray site for 8 years, Tammy Beckwith. The second one is a familiar name to the city, Desiree Kelly Strong, formerly Desiree Kelly Cotto from CARE, Capillary Response Effort. And so because Tammy's already trained and certified, she'll hit the ground running on July 22nd. She'll start making appointments. And we expect a formal launch around the second week of September, which will do a ribbon cutting and a press thing. Okay, so that's very good news that that's all about to happen.
When did you say that was?
July 22nd, they start. Second week of September is our goal for the formal launch, where we start really opening up our scheduler and saying anyone can.
Thank you, Councilman. Just want to say thank you so much for that update, because I know that we've had a lot of transition in the department and the services. So I really appreciate that today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. For this grant, Jackson Foundation, which is part of Jackson National Life, they really support financial counseling, and they love our model. They support it not only here, but also at their Nashville headquarters. They have another headquarters in Nashville, and they have an FEC in Nashville. They also get support. And so I've been meeting regularly with Susanna Berry, their person in Nashville, who is helping us to get these grant funds. So first they gave us $15,000, which you all approved a few months ago, and that was to pay a consultant to help us with the relaunch. That consultant has now delivered a marketing plan, as well as some other core pieces of the strategy. And this $60,000 is to help us in our very first year of relaunch. And it really is meant to be pretty fluid about what we can spend it on as long as it is toward capacity building. And so in their mind, the perfect way to do that is staff. And in our mind, the way that that can look is that we can train up in our program someone who's like a case manager at another nonprofit for them to be able to do sessions. And so with just having 2 counselors right now, then that person could be like a half-time. So that's what we're looking for as we relax. We'll be looking to work with Jackson to find some opportunities to do that.
Appreciate that comment about personnel versus sort of maybe like the trainer models or what you're talking about, because this is a one-time grant. It'd be
Yes.
unfortunate to hire someone and then have let them go, but if you're using existing people that are qualified, that makes a lot of sense to multiply force. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Chair. So that's wonderful. My question is, I know over the years, there's been a lot of conversation in my former appointed role, HRCS, years ago. And the one that, of course, the FEC has always been very powerful and impactful for our residents in Lansing, and it's a free service. So if you need any support, please join. But really, in the history of that, I know that there has been a lot of, if I can say, cross referrals within our community partner network, as well as internally with HRCS and the FEC. And now we have a whole neighborhood and citizen engagement department. Part of your strategy to build capacity, is this individual going to be someone who's able to connect with all of the organizations and help hand off individuals and families that really could benefit from the services, so we're really maximizing our reach?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that we proposed, but is not, we're not certain if it's going to happen or not, but Ulysses Rosa in 54A, he sees all these people for eviction diversion. He refers every one of those people to us, and a lot of them attend. If we trained and certified him in counseling, he could do it on the spot. So he could see them and do the intake that he does for them as eviction diversion coordinator. But then he could say, let's dig a little deeper into your finances. Let's put a budget together. Let's set some goals. And he would be able to record all of that in our software, which gives us all wonderful data-rich pieces that we can use to make the case for more funding for these things later on. So it'd be like, that is an example of what we could do both internally or with an external partner.
Cassie, is that the individual, because I highly support that program, is that the individual you're looking at to do this with?
We're talking to 54A about it. There's a lot of demands on Ulysses' time, and they're not certain that they can spare him.
Right.
So that's where we are with that. We're still figuring out, what that might look like. That's where the 60,000 can come in though, because we could say, well, what if, we got someone who could do like the data entry for him, right? We could have some admin help that would be temporary if necessary.
Thank you for that update.
Other questions? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to resolution.
Yes, I'll make a motion to place the resolution on file or approve the grant acceptance.
Thank you. There's a proper motion before us. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you so much.
Have fun at Scrap Fest.
Thank you. Everybody go to Scrap Fest this weekend. Lansing Safe gets all the proceeds.
So you don't need this grant.
We do, I swear. Have a great day, everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
Next item, you too, Amber. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the grant acceptance for the Ingham County Parks and Trails Millage reallocation contract extension. Mitch is here with them.
Yes, Brett, in his absence, asked that I come and attend for this request. The Bear Lake US 121, US 127 Pathways project has excess funds, approximately $525,000. That's even after the current portion of the phase that's being constructed right now. So we're requesting a portion of that funding balance from the county be reallocated to both the Fenner Pathway project and the Corporate Research Park Pathway project. The funding that's going to the Corporate Research Park Pathway project actually would be a new project. That's why it's both accepting the grant funding and requesting the reallocation of the fundings in this resolution. Um, With that extra funding, the city's liability will be roughly $90,000 in the project cost, assuming no overruns, whatever, based on the recent bids that we had received. The additional request within this resolution is for the extension of some various projects that were done using the millage funding. I do believe all of them are complete. It's just the closeout process with regard to these projects.
And this process was initiated by the Ingham County Board of Commissioners authorizing all these expenditure changes.
That's correct. There's amendments for all these, yes.
There's no grant form, you'll notice in your packet, because this is just moving money around, not applying for new money.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if we have Mr. Kilpatrick available today.
Sure.
Oh, fantastic. I'm glad he's in the building. You and I have been speaking. I just,
The fence,
yes. So I was wondering, is this,
that's the project,
that's what I was,
but I don't believe fencing is part of the bid, so that would be handled outside of that. Generally, we can get fencing ourselves less expensive than in the project, but someone can request.
is that something, because you know, the whole neighborhood has reached out to me, so, and he was indicating that most of the project has been complete, or I guess.
It's bid, so Fenner is not constructed yet. It's bid, so it has not started yet.
Yeah, the complete project is the Bear Lake US 127.
Okay.
As far as that funding, that's already been allocated, and the balance of that is what is being reallocated to the Fenner. Fenner has not yet started.
Okay,
We have bids for that.
okay. And so the Fenner project, and of course, this fence that this neighborhood is about, is that a part of it, or?
It's not within the project at the moment, within what was bid, say, but that is something that could be handled either as with the contractor in the bid or outside it with the funding that's available, or with park/cemetery funds, because it is, part of Evergreen Cemetery where that fence was requested along the west side.
So is that something you're working on?
Something we will look at and figure out what the best way is to get that in place at the same time as the project.
Okay. Thank you for that update. And thank you that you don't feel I just put you on blast. I know we've had multiple, so thank you so much.
It's not usually a question that Mr. Kilpatrick can answer.
No.
Or I can make something up.
Yeah. Well, I
We
really,
won't know any better.
yeah, but I do really appreciate the efforts on multiple projects. I know that we worked, and you're always available and very informational, so.
And if there's something additional, because, well, there's limited, things that we're going to put all sorts of trees in a cemetery. We may have burials at some point in time in the future, but that's not a developed portion right now at that very south end of Evergreen. But we want to be sensitive and work with Parks and Rec to see what areas are allocated for that to, we know the pathway is not in conflict. If we put more trees or something else as a buffer, then, it's something we have to work out with Brett. So it doesn't impact cemetery operations.
Thank you again for everything that you do. Thank you, Chair.
Of course. Could we have a motion to accept the grant?
The motion to accept or grant acceptance for the Ingham County Parks and Trails Village.
Proper motion is before us. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Next up, we have Andy and Hal.
Yep.
Oh, there he is. To talk about the fees for electric vehicle charging stations for city-owned stations.
Yes, and this is something, as any of you with electric vehicles know, there are ways that we can bill for these. Our intent is just to recover our costs. Now, we did get a grant or through the Board of Water and Light funding for implementation of these stations, but the maintenance, not just the energy, but upkeep, we want to make sure that we are recovering our costs. And there are, I would say, 3 ways we can do this. We can charge, some places charge just for the energy used, which means if you sit there and you charge your vehicle in half an hour and you sit there for the other 9 hours a day, you're not paying any more and there's no incentive to move along. The other way is a per minute basis or per hour, which encourages you to unplug and move away. And the other would be sort of a hybrid. And so what we're asking here, we would not charge one plus the other. It's one or the other, or a mix of the two, and it may not be the same for each type of station, depending on the location and the demand for that station. So it might be different in, say, a community center versus the parking structures, Or say the Lansing Center, if there's a large event there, that may be more popular. And so that rate might be different to encourage people to kind of turn that over. So we're maximizing the utility of having that charging station there.
This is gonna pique my interest, so I'm gonna let you guys ask your questions first.
Yeah, I guess educate me a little bit more on the charging city. So the consumer will have the option to choose.
We will decide. So what we're asking for here is, I would call this maximum rate if we did one or the other. We're not going to say, okay, it's a per minute charge and the kilowatt hour charge, but it could be blended. Certain states are like one or the other. And really, we don't know based on the usage. Now, these are out there. They're free at the moment, which means we're losing money. So we're giving free gas away, which we can't do. All the ones we've put in place so far. Yeah. So
Goes up early.
we're trying to figure out what the best approach is. And again, it might change by facility. So this just gives us the option to work. Our vendor that put these in place had a suggestion, but their mindset might be a little bit different. They might try and maximize profit, and we're not trying to do that. We're trying to maximize use of these for the public. And our hope would be honestly that some of these, at least in the downtown, we put in place first. We actually make a little bit of money that allows us to put these in other locations of the city that we might not make money to serve, everyone in the community versus we could have gotten these for free. We could have had some vendor could have said, hey, we're going to do this for free. They get all the money. They're going to pick locations that only make sense for profitability. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that these are spread out over the city.
And then with them currently not being a cost, how are we communicating that with the users?
So we will implement at some point in time, whatever this charge will be, and we'll have a sign there saying, effective whatever date, this is what the charge will be. At that point in time, they will have to pay through an app or an account to do that. And it's possible they may be by time of day too. They may have like peak hours that's higher rate. And, certain areas, if it's during the day when that's the peak charging time, they'll pay more there. And then at night, obviously not North Capitol because that's closed at night unless they, sit there the entire night.
Which I would like to talk about for a minute.
And that's not me, but anyway. So basically what we're asking for here is really flexibility because otherwise we could say, okay, we're going to charge per facility some different rate. And so this would be a maximum of one or the other. And my assumption is honestly, we are going to come up with some sort of blended. There will be a per minute charge to encourage people to move along, and then a per kilowatt hour charge for the electricity and, a little additional. Or we could have a flat per session charge and something else, which we're
That
not
makes a
doing.
lot of sense, Andy. Like if you're looking at perhaps somebody who comes downtown for the day and their commute is 40 miles, they plug in all day, charge them for the energy and then charge them for the time they're
Yeah,
sitting in that spot.
exactly.
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
You move the car so you're not. And I appreciate the emphasis on the system being equitable because I think it does make sense to law will have to answer this maybe a little bit more specifically, but our fees have to cover our costs.
Yes.
And if you view the EV system as
Global system, not
Global
like each
system,
location.
sure.
Yes.
that makes sense to say, well, we need them down on the south side, but we're not gonna generate enough revenue
Right.
in the first year or so to make them make sense. So that makes a lot of sense to do both ways. And obviously adherence is you're gonna be evaluating them to make sure we're not overcharging.
Correct. Now, I'm sure you're also aware, because I think this has been to council for the acceptance of the grant that we got through USDOT, a huge grant, which is a regional grant for EV charging. So this gives us the ability to have at least a couple stations that we can get some data on of what the use will be as we roll this out as the region to figure things out.
Is there, Councilmember, how maybe this is for you, or as far as enforcement goes, how can we're probably gonna need to update our laws about parking cars in spots designated, because
So that would be something that if in a city parking facility, they wanted to implement something that says, hey, EV parking only, or EV parking only with a time limit, they could do that, and then you could enforce that. But
I'm not sure, I don't remember right offhand if it was Grand Rapids or Ann Arbor, but one of them has an ordinance in place already that we could mirror off of that says basically if you're going to park here, you have to be an electric vehicle or, not a hybrid, something along those lines.
Something plugged, you have to be plugged in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, we may come back and request a change in the ordinance to say, if you're going to, if you're going to be here and not be charging, as Andy mentioned, you get 4 hours and you're filled up, you're just going to sit there because why not? There's no incentive to move off of there. So we would have the ordinance say, you're going to be fined if you don't move off of this thing when you're done.
And that's a little different too. Like if you're charging per minute, they're still paying to occupy the space.
Correct.
Like if they're a Dodge Ram that's pulled into that spot and not plugged in, that's different than.
Yes. So
plugging
I
in
think,
drawing.
well, and I thought I was slick. I pulled in the Wharton Center. I have a little plug-in EV, right? So it's a hybrid with, and I was like, oh, this is great. I can plug in there. They charge per minute and you have to be connected. So you're paying for that. So sure, you got the spot, but you're paying a premium. That's a premium spot at that point in time. They don't care whether you're charging or not. As long as that's connected, you're being charged for it. So that's something we're gonna have to sort of figure out how to balance. And I think it will change depending on the facility, because we do have, there are 3 levels of chargers. So there's level 1 that you get the 110, 120 plug in with the vehicle. There's level 2, which is the middle. And then there's level 3 DC fast charging, like the Tesla superchargers. We don't have any of those. Those are super expensive, but even in the level 2, there are various rates. So we have some that are 40 amp, some that are 80 amp. So you can charge a lot faster with the 80 amp. And so those rates might be different just because we want to encourage people for those faster chargers to get what they need and move out versus, I don't think in this area, it's not like someone's going on a long trip and they're going to pull into the Lansing Center and say, I'm going to get, 300 miles. They're there for an event or something. So we want them to be able to top off to be able to get, whether it's back home or someplace that they're going to be overnight.
And level 3s make more sense, like at a Red Cedar.
Yeah. So those, I think we will have some of those with our large grant, but the majority, honestly, will probably be the level 2 chargers of various variety. And we're just going to kind of key the number to what the demand will be. So some of these are basically 1 charging head per unit. Some of them are 2 charging heads per unit. And we may have, multiple chargers next to each other. So it's kind of a new world. We haven't been in the fueling business essentially. So we need to look at what the demand currently is and what we think it will be moving forward.
I work downtown. A lot of people are getting EVs. They drive in from out of town. They're very excited about all this.
Well, and some of these, again, this is on parking. If they want to, they could have some spaces that are just level 1, just plug. You bring yours in and you could get, for a day, you could get 40 to 50 miles just plugged into level 1 charger a day. And then why would we spend the extra money to have the level 2 infrastructure in place when we could have a spot that essentially it's your almost daily reserve spot? You get everything you need. Maybe it's a special permit, allows you to park there, and that's how you pay for it. And that gives you, most people, if they're just commuting, should get them what they need. So.
Well, spoiler alert, Lisa, in public safety, I'm going to try to look at an ordinance about parking and not charging.
Thanks for the spoiler.
Any questions? Sorry.
No, that was my question about the different levels. We had spoke about it in the past. So you are looking at having some level 3.
We are. If there's, and like the level 1 is just a regular outlet that people can plug in. They bring their own charger, plug in there. And that's something that it can be done, but then generally would have to have dedicated either 15 or 20 amp circuit per plug. So you don't trip it when you have multiple people plugged in there. The one nice thing about the system we have, they are networked. So if you have one person charging, they'll get the maximum. If your circuit, you have 3 or 4 plugged in, then it's going to bring down that maximum charging rate. So it's not going to trip that breaker.
Who is the vendor?
So the vendor for these is Blink. There's a number of large charging companies, and I think this is a bit of the Wild West still with EV charging. I think you'll probably have some consolidation of companies in the near future or networks. The Board of Water and Light picked Flow, which is a Canadian company, but they have a manufacturing facility in Michigan now. I think one of the ones probably most people have heard of is ChargePoint, and they know about the Tesla superchargers, but they're made by someone else. Tesla kind of brands them. There's a bunch of other companies, and basically what we did is we put in some criteria when we put this thing out to bid and see who presented the lowest price, the best value, what we chose for this round.
Well, I know this is Ways and Means, but what standard is it, CCS or NCAS?
CCS. I think so. I know with most of them, you can have a, adapter, plug adapter. On them.
For the next 5 years.
Probably, but so there will be, the charging cables would be able to be changed out.
Yeah, that was my.
Yeah, if people didn't have an adapter.
Well, now that I've got to nerd out on this, can we have a motion to accept the resolution or motion to approve the resolution?
Yes, make a motion to approve the resolution for fees, establish electronic vehicles charging station.
Very good, that's proper motion. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Any other business for the committee? Seeing none, I want to thank everyone for being here on Friday afternoon, and we stand adjourned at 1:25.
These are on, if people want to go to, Blink